The woman only has flashes of memory from a car crash, blacking out while driving, waking up as her car was airborne, then a paramedic scooping broken teeth out of her mouth. The former nurse fell asleep at the wheel and crashed into a sandstone wall soon after being discharged from Brisbane Waters Private Hospital, having been cleared to drive home despite a history of insomnia, spontaneous sleeping, and being on a combination of psychoactive drugs. The 52-year-old woman was awarded nearly $100,000 in damages last week, with a New South Wales District Court judge finding the Central Coast Hospital and psychiatrist Drive Larissa Grund breached their duty of care in allowing the woman to be discharged alone on the afternoon of January 17, 2012. The court heard the woman became seriously depressed after she suffered a back injury and lost her job as a phone triage nurse. She was admitted to the hospital's mental health ward, where she was treated for several weeks. During the time she could not sleep at night and paced the hospital corridors, or sat in the TV room. Hospital records showed she was given sedatives, including Stilox, and the opioid painkiller Oxycontin, and often fell deeply asleep during the day. She saw Drive Grund the day before she was discharged and expressed concern about being drowsy, but the psychiatrist told her she would be fine to drive home, the court heard. On the morning of discharge, the woman fell asleep over breakfast, nodded off several times in front of staff, and had to take a cold shower to wake herself up, but Drive Grund did not examine her or inquire about her condition. Another patient told court it was obvious the woman was very tired that morning, and the hospital staff were annoyed with her for continually falling asleep well past the scheduled discharge time of 10 a.m. Staff gave the woman her car keys to drive 50 kilometers from the hospital in Woy Woy to her home in Wyong, but she crashed before she got there. When asked in court if she considered herself fit to drive that morning, the woman said, "I was in a mental state to make that decision at the time I was leaving." Judge David Wilson said Drive Grund had failed the most basic professional obligations to her patient. "I find that her cavalier attitude to the condition of the plaintiff and her fitness to drive on discharge was an extraordinary breach of her duty of care," Judge Wilson said. "I also find that leaving the question of fitness to drive to a highly medicated psychiatric patient is complete neglect of her obligations as a medical care provider upon whom the plaintiff was entitled to rely and did so rely." Judge Wilson ordered Drive Grund pay $64,333. And the hospital pay $32,167 in damages, indicating their levels of liability.